Hello, Coach Magazine Global audience. We are here with our fifth guest today. Allow me to introduce today's guest, Matt Lesser. Matt is the founder of CEO of Uniquely Normal, dedicated to equipping and training leaders to foster flourishing team members and organizations through empathy, empowerment, and excellence. With over 20 years of experience, Matt has had the privilege of training leaders, teams, and boards in over 40 countries. Before launching Uniquely Normal, Matt held C-suite roles in private equity, banking, and industrial supply and distribution. He spent the initial 15 years of his career leading his family's wholesale petroleum business, which later expanded to include retail operations. Under his leadership, the business grew from 3 to nearly 200 employees, with a 20 times increase in revenue before being sold. Matt holds undergraduate degrees in business from Indiana University and an MBA from Taylor University. Additionally, he is certified in nearly 20 personality, team building, and leadership assessments. As a best-selling author, his first book, Unsatisfied, When Less is More, was released in October 2022, and he has a second book, Unengaged, Building Flourishing Organizations, scheduled for release in late 2023. Matt also serves as an adjunct professor and has contributed to various boards of directors in both domestic and international businesses and nonprofit organizations. Welcome, Matt. While this bio provides a glimpse into your accomplishments, today we'll delve deeper through a series of questions. I'd like to express my gratitude for joining us as a guest. I hope our conversation will deliver valuable messages to our audience. The questions I have prepared were inspired by my exploration of your work thus far. Now, let's begin with the very first question. How are you today?
I'm doing very well, thank you. I have been looking forward to our conversation very much, so thank you for having me on today.
Thank you for being with us today. So, my first question is: how did your previous roles in private equity, banking, and industrial supply and distribution contribute to your decision to launch Uniquely Normal?
Oh, it's been a journey. Let me tell you. It's been my passion for leadership really began when I unexpectedly took over my family's business. I was fairly fresh out of college, just about a year and a half out of college. Took over, and the first thing that happened was it failed. So within just a few months, it failed. Many reasons why that happened, and I got really sick. I went through a clinical and suicidal depression, and was removed, rightfully so. And I had to get help. And so about for about 9 months, I was removed. In that time, we had some wonderful advisors that came in, and they helped us get ready to launch a new business. We did, and it grew. We started with 3 people, as you mentioned in your very eloquent introduction. Thank you for that. That was very generous. And as it grew, it took off. So two things happened. This is I'll get specifically to your question, but I have to tell a little bit of the backstory to get to your question. As it grew, one of the two things didn't happen when I was in university. One is they don't tell you in university how to take a business through a failure. And they also don't tell you what happens when the business grows, the explosive growth. And so, literally, for years, I was looking for mentors and coaches, and I just devoured books on leadership to find out, okay, how do I do this thing called leadership? Because leading a company with 3 people, which I was one of them, to then an organization that was large, I didn't know how to lead. And so I had to learn, and I learned in the trenches. So I became very passionate for healthy leadership. And then when I sold the business, went into private equity, that's when I began journeying and traveling abroad and meeting with leaders of organizations, large and small. And just as I sat across from them over coffee or tea, I would hear their stories, and they would tell me about their adventures in leadership. And oftentimes there were painful stories and painful lessons learned. And at the same time of doing that, I had the opportunity to work with their teams. I had the opportunity to train their teams. And so with each organization that I worked in, I got a different glimpse of leadership. I had a different experience in leadership. And it got to the point where I had several friends that just kept telling me, you need to go do this on your own. You've been doing this for other organizations for all these years. You need to go out and do it on your own. And so it was one of those things, Seda, that I think I heard it one too many times and I believed it. And so I launched Uniquely Normal in I launched it actually 3 years ago, but really started working it 2 years ago when I started writing this book, the first book, Unsatisfied When Less Is More. And that book really is an outgrowth of these leadership conversations that I was having with these leaders that would tell me that they would grow these organizations and they would sacrifice so much. And oftentimes they meant sacrifice by they were sacrificing their families, they were sacrificing their marriages, they were sacrificing their health to build something that they thought would give them freedom, flexibility, and fulfillment. And now here they were toward the end of their careers, and they were telling me if I could do it, oftentimes with high emotion, tears, and they would tell me if I could do it over again, I would, but it was too late. And so as I kept my journal and I had these conversations, I just got to the point of saying something has to be done. And so I wrote a book, and it was a long journey to write that book, but I wanted to specifically address this internal sense of unsatisfied. I call it. There's a reason why it's called unsatisfied, because these people, by all standards, would say, "My goodness, you have it all. You have a successful business. You have money. You have power. You have position. You have freedom." But yet they were miserable on the inside. They were just because many of them had destroyed their personal lives. And that really is at the heart of the book of, how do you live a satisfying, fulfilling, purposeful life that's intentional.
Us the importance of network, importance of sharing the stories of those leaders with you, that you get insightful, experiences from other leaders who have been down and up and down again and up and know what's the normal way of running a business. So yeah, it must be a very hell of a experience, and
Mm,
I'm glad
yes.
you've been through that and come up with these books and this, uniquely normal. And that brings me to my second question: as a leader in your family business, what challenges did you experience, and at what point did you decide to share your accumulated knowledge with other leaders?
Oh my, we don't have enough time to share all the challenges and lessons learned. I give a glimpse. It started out right out of the gate. It was a huge challenge, and it was one of those things that because I went to university to study business, I thought that I knew what it took to run a business, and I just didn't anticipate running into the problems that I ran into. That and each one I came across was bigger than the next, and they were just bigger than me. And so, what that taught me was the importance of having other people around you, and the importance of team. I realized then and there I cannot do this alone. I really can't. I need other people around me, both inside the business and outside the business, and that's where mentoring and coaching became very real to me. I was in my mid 20s at the time and realized I need help, and I need help on many levels. And then the challenge then of starting over, and the challenge then of growing the business and trying to figure out corporate structure that works and figuring out shared leadership. I mean, here I am, I'm in my mid 20s. I'm hiring people that are 15, 20, 25 years older than me, and I'm leading them. And you lead somebody that's a different generation than you, much differently than you lead your own generation or those younger than you. At one point, I didn't have anybody in the business that was younger than me. And so I learned different forms of leadership. And then when I went into and so I began speaking during that time, and but it wasn't really intentional. I mean, I was just doing it because I was just sharing my story, so to speak. And then when I after I got into private equity, beginning working with more leaders and more leadership teams, training them, talking with them, coaching them, that's when I got more intentional about speaking, about training, and about sharing not only my story, but the importance of healthy, high performance leadership. And so I think that probably gives you some, I guess, sketch of when it happened. And I've just gotten more intentional about doing it over the years.
Yes. Yeah, it is important to experience these things firsthand. Then you can
Mm,
tell more about it, to the leaders who are running their businesses and having those challenges. And you've been there, you know how it's going, and share your authentic story about your own business might help the other leaders also in their own journey. So you
Yes.
wrote your book because of these
Thank you.
experiences after a while, right? And your first
Yes.
book, Unsatisfied, When Less is More, explores the idea that relentlessly pursuing success, money, and fame at the expense of spending time with your loved ones may not bring true fulfillment. Here, I would like to introduce my thoughts about this. Like, I attended a course by Dr. Lori Santos from Yale University, the course of the science of happiness. And she also talked about the research results about happiness. And all of them tells us that pursuing so much money, pursuing so much grades in the university, higher grades, none of them, living in a beautiful house, having these beautiful cars, having the perfect family also, whatever we are chasing for, not bringing us happiness. So you're telling that less is more in your book. Could you share the intended message for your readers with this book?
Yes, the really the message can be distilled down to really one word, and that's intentionality, and that's choosing to live your life intentionally rather than by accident or just happenstance. That was I think that was kind of the overarching message that I kept getting from people was, I'm not even sure how I got here, kind of a thing, almost like this learned helplessness, like I don't even know what happened. Here I was doing this thing that I thought would bring me a certain level of contentment and joy and happiness. And here I am ready to end my career and I'm absolutely miserable. I'm broken. I'm devastated because of it. And so it's just choosing to live your life intentionally. And I talk about it in terms of purpose, with and for and on purpose. And if you want to build a business and you intentionally choose to sacrifice your family or whatever it is along the way, just understand that that's your choice, and it's everyone's choice to do that. But then don't get to the end of your career and say, "Whoa, wait a minute, I don't have my spouse anymore, or my marriage is completely my spouse is completely separate from me or disengaged from me, and my kids don't want anything to do with me." Well, that was your choice that you made, and so choose something differently. And the whole thing about less is more is that we just have it seems like we have this insatiable appetite for more and bigger and more. And I was on that same, I call it a hamster wheel or a treadmill. I was on that same path. And literally, it wasn't until about 2018 that I began to have this huge wake up call, 2018, 19, that I had this huge wake up call that, this is ingrained in me. And I'm doing the same thing. I'm sacrificing my marriage and my kids. And one of the biggest wake up calls was my oldest son graduated from high school, where we were going through his pictures, and literally I'm pulling out pictures saying, okay, when did this happen? Where was I? What? And my loving wife just gently said, well, you were never here. And that was it's like literally, it's like she hit me upside the head with a two, but she didn't strike me at all. But it was like I got hit in the face with this big plank, this wood plank. And it's like, what are you doing, Matt? You're doing the same thing. You're talking to people about. And so that put me on this current journey that I'm on, where I'm intentionally pursuing this. And I jokingly say that in my career, I've never made as less money as I'm making right now, but I've never been more fulfilled.
Yeah. Like it reminds me the life of wheel, like when you have the areas in the career you have 10, in finances you have 9, in family you have 2, in
Mhm.
social life you have 4, something like that, and it's never balanced this way. And if you are less, make these financials and career less to 7, you can pull up these family and social environment to 5 6, so it can be a more balanced life of wheel. Yeah, it
I
is
love that. Yeah,
it's a
yeah, I
very
love that.
unique metaphor. I love it. When my first coach and mentor told me about this, I was talking about my finances. I wanted to be better. I wanted to be 10, and she was like, "Okay, let's do it. Why not? You are pursuing this goal." I said, "Okay, I would. Even in 1 year, I can be a millionaire." She said, "Go for it." And I was like, no, I can't, because if I want start to pursue for that 1 million, I know that I'm going to sacrifice the time with my children, with my family, with my health, with my spirituality, all these kind of areas. We
Yep.
are not, containing only one area in our life. There are so many different levels, so we have to be balanced in all of these areas.
Yes.
So it is very nice that you wrote this book. And also, I would like to ask about this model that you use in your book. From
Mm.
it reminds me the Maslow's needs pyramid. Like from start, you need to be searching for your food, for your drinks, for your shelter, and then once you have it, you search for your career, and then you search for love, and then you search for meaning. So it is very similar. It sounded like that Maslow's needs pyramid. Would you like to elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, no, I'd be happy to. So the model, it's a 5-layer model. It is a triangle, much like Maslow's model as well. While there may be some connection, it's probably very loose. But so the first 4 layers of this model actually came to me about 5 years before I started writing the book, but I knew it was not complete, and I could not figure out what that top is. So the bottom layer is diminishing, and those are people that have just kind of given up on life for whatever reason. They've just lost hope. They've lost, and they feel helpless. And so they just kind of have checked out on life to say, well, this is it. And it's never going to get any better. And so I'm not even going to try. The next layer is surviving. And surviving is, people that just do whatever it takes. They get up every single day and they work their tails off and they do whatever it takes to survive that day. They don't think about tomorrow. They think about today. What I have to do today to survive. And then striving. For some people, they wake up and I want something different for my life. I don't like this, survive for the day kind of a thing. And I want to, so they'll pursue education or training or coaching, mentoring, whatever. Try to acquire a skill set to become more specialized, something to better their life. And then thriving are people that these leaders that I was talking to, by all measurement, they're thriving, right? They have money, they have power, they have flexibility, they have position, and you look at their life and you'd say, wow, you have it all. But yet on the inside, they were absolutely dying inside. They were miserable. And so as I began to look at that, it's like, so the first working title of the book was actually called Beyond Thriving. But when I test marketed the title, people didn't understand what I was getting at, so I changed the title. So then so I was having lunch with a friend. This is right before I started writing, and he used the word flourish, and I said, "Tell me about that word." And so he did, and I was so intrigued by that word, I did a complete word study on it and realized, okay, this is it. This is the word. Thriving is a focus inward. If you look at the definition, focus on accumulation of wealth, power, position, money, things, whatever it is that you think is going to bring you happiness. Flourishing is a focus out. It's a focus on legacy. It's a focus on living for something that's bigger than me. And that's like, that's it. Flourishing doesn't concern myself with what I'm getting. It concerns myself in what I'm giving. How am I investing my life in others? How am I living for something that's bigger than me? And that is the difference between living a thriving life and a flourishing life. It's the distinction I make in the model and in the book.
Yes, yes, beautiful. And also, you wrote a beautiful article for our Coach Magazine Global
Mm.
for the fourth issue, and you're talking about working with others in your upcoming article. It's like when you start a business, don't do it alone, and you heard it from friends, maybe a mentor. Could you elaborate on this advice? Its meaning, what did you do based on it, and how it worked out for you?
Yeah, no, I'm happy to share this. This is one of my favorite things to share, as you can tell. I mean, I wrote about it in this article coming up, and thank you, by the way, for inviting me to do this. I had a lot of fun writing that article. When I set out to start this business a couple years ago, one of my friends and mentors, he's a gentleman into his 80s and very successful in life, business and career, spiritual life. I mean, just a wonderful man. And so he called me up one day and he said, "Hey, let's meet after work. I want to talk to you about something." And so I said, "Sure." So we met, and he said, "I understand you're starting a business. Don't do this alone." And I just said, "Okay." I said, "I'm a startup." I said, "I can't afford to hire anybody. So what do you mean, don't do this alone?" And he said, "Put together a personal board of directors." And I said, "Okay, what does that look like?" And he said, find 4 or 5 people that you know love you and care about you, that are experienced, and you know will speak truth to you even when it hurts, especially when it hurts. They need to speak truth to you at all times. And I said, okay. And so I did. I went out and I found 3 gentlemen. I found and my wife also serves, and so every quarter these 4 people give me 1/2 day of their time. I don't pay them. I can't afford to pay them, but they met all the criteria. They love me. They care about me and my family. They speak truth to me, and they're experienced. And they have been this group, and I have chosen to. And all of them wanted to know this too. I have submitted to their leadership, and so even though it's my business, I own it. I'm taking the risk in this. I'm investing in it. I have submitted to their leadership, and so when we meet, they have given me unbelievable counsel, advice. More than once, they have they encourage me when I need encouraged. I say they kick me in the pants when I need kicked to go. They help me up when I fall, and they also keep me on the track. So
Yeah.
right after, for example, on that, right after my book came out in October, I don't understand all the reasons why, but I went into a real low time, and literally to the point of saying, you know what, it's been fun, but I'm not going to do this. It's not worth it. I'm just going to go find a job and forget it. And so I went into my board meeting, which was about 2 weeks after the book came out, and I literally said, "Guys, this isn't working. I'm not going to do this." And literally to a person, they all said, "What are you talking about?" It's like, okay, let's. And one in particular said, "We're going to rewind here. Where were we a year ago? Because it had been about a year at that point. Where were we a year ago? Where are we now? And what do you think is going to happen a year from now?" It's like, there's no way we're letting you quit. It's like, we've seen too much progress. There's been too much good stuff that's happening. And we think that that's just going to build for this next year. So the answer is no, you're not quitting. So they wouldn't even let me quit my own business. So, no, that's just one example. And that kind of counsel happens over and over and over. And they're not just concerned about the business. They're concerned about my physical being. They're concerned about my family. They're concerned about my marriage, my kids, my health, my spiritual life. I mean, there's literally one of the criteria, or one of the I guess one of the criteria, I guess, is that there's nothing that's off limits. So they can ask me about anything. They can speak into my life. And so, like I said, we meet quarterly, and then I meet with them each one-on-one during the quarter as well, for coaching, mentoring, and Seda, I cannot tell you this. They have been an absolute godsend. I recommend every business that is starting up, or even if you've been going for a long time, if you don't have an official board of directors, a personal board of directors has been it's been a game changer. It's been a life changer for me.
Yes, I love this position that is being around lately, accountability partner. I
Mm.
think
Yep.
your board of directors are your accountability partners that who are telling you the truth when it hurts, and
Yep.
telling you the progress also you're doing since last year you started your business, and you're gonna do this and you're gonna continue. And they are probably experienced gentlemen in your board of directors. They all been through this kind of stages of a business when they started their businesses. It is amazing. I think nobody can do this, like not just business, even going on a diet. You can't do it
Yeah.
yourself. It's just you need somebody else to pick you up when you are down. Like, okay, I can't do this anymore. I'm carving for sugar. I want to go. No, no, no. We are decided. We are not going for that. There
Mm.
should be
Yep.
at least one person.
Yes. Yes,
uh,
and I love the word accountability, and I believe every leader, I believe it's an absolute must for leaders. They have to be accountable, and you're right. This group, I'm accountable to them, and
yeah.
I have to give account for my actions, my attitudes, and so it's been so I love that word.
Yeah. I don't know. Is it okay for you to talk about your next book right now? But I would like to, jump into that one also now. You're
Yep.
having another one coming up at the end of this year called Unengaged, Building Flourishing Organizations. It's impressive to see you already working on another book so soon after the release of your first. Could you give us a sneak peek into the main themes of this upcoming book and what readers can expect in terms of insights and practical guidance for creating thriving work environments?
Absolutely. It's actually going to be released the last week of September. So I just onboarded with a new publisher, and they're working very diligently to make sure this comes out as shortly as possible. So we're targeting the end of September. And yes, it is called Unengaged: Building Flourishing Organizations. This is the book that I wanted to write. So the first book I wrote, for many reasons, it needed to. I needed to have that first one. I learned a lot. I gained a lot of experience in it. I needed to get this model out into the world, let people see it. And then the second book, I pull some of the concepts and principles from the first book and build upon them and really apply them towards leaders of organizations. And it's really, how do you build a flourishing organization? We hear frequently about leaders that are struggling with high turnover rates in their companies, and how do you get their team members to be engaged and excited and motivated, and how do you get commitment and loyalty? And I kept hearing about this over and over and over, and it's like, okay, we need to stop talking about it. We need to actually do something with this, right? Again, it's about being intentional. And so, we're not just, the problem's not going to go away if we just talk about it. We have to actually do something with it. And so I wrote this book, as I call it, a field manual. I don't believe in writing books that are just philosophical or conceptual in nature. Sure, there is concept, there is philosophy, but at the end of both books, the entire third part of the book, basically one third of the book, is dedicated toward application and exercise. If you want to make these changes in your life with the first book, here's how you can do this. If you want to become a flourishing organization and proactively address these issues, here's how you can do this. And so the pillars of a flourishing organization are empathy, empowerment, and excellence. So empathy is just really understanding your people, restoring humanity to organizations, and remembering that organizations are people and people are organizations. And I think we forget that sometimes. You talk to many leaders and you ask them, what's your most important part of your business? They'll say, oh, my people, our people. Okay, if people are your greatest asset, why do you treat them like they're on the P&L? Every time there's a downturn, you lay them off, or you forget, you don't invest. You say, oh, we want to invest in our people. Or really? Well, how do you do that? Oh, just we give them benefits. Like that's not really investing. So restoring humanity, empowerment is, how do you effectively share leadership? How do you effectively empower with authority and responsibility and accountability? How do you do that well? And then finally, excellence, having an unwavering commitment to excellence. I can't tell you how frustrating it is. And I don't know if you've had this experience before, but being a part of something where, you know what, it's good enough. Mediocre is okay. Average is okay. That's no fun to be a part of. That's not motivating. As to have an unwavering commitment to excellence. And so that's just kind of the high level concepts. I'm extremely excited about this book coming out. And so again, hopefully the last week of September, and it's being released through Ballast Books. And so I'm very excited about my new publishing partner, and I'm also very excited about this book coming out. So thank you for asking.
Great. Like you're talking about the practical tools in both your books. I suppose that because you are also coming from the field and you're searching, when you had these challenges for your first business, when you had these downs, you're looking for these books and mentors, you were always looking for solutions. Like, okay, am I going to read this book and is it going to provide me any solution? No. If it's only conceptual, I don't get it. If there are some tools to apply, then oh, I get it, I understand now how to use them. So yeah, that brings me to my next question. You're also an academician, you're an adjunct professor. How does your experience in academia complement your coaching practice, and how do you incorporate academic knowledge into your coaching programs?
It's probably more of the other way around. I probably incorporate a lot of what I do in business and in coaching and in training into my academia. I adjunct at a local university in their MBA program, and with the same mindset and focus on, I'm going to teach you the concepts, I'm going to teach you the principles, and then we're going to apply it. When I was in my MBA, I had a very great experience getting my MBA in concept, and so I took a lot away from my MBA, and so but I see Many areas of academia, it's more of just the concept, the philosophy, and the principle, but they don't actually show you, okay, this is what you do with this. This is the difference it can make. And so that's the approach I take in the classroom is, okay, here's the focus we're on. I'm teaching a class here coming up called creativity and innovation. And I'm not just going to talk about the importance of creativity and innovation, because it's vitally important to organizations. But I'm going to teach them, okay, this is how you can actually do this. People say, I hear this a lot, well, I'm not creative, I'm not innovative. Yes, you are. Everybody is. You just have to learn how to pull that out of you. And I'm going to show you how to do it. And so that's my approach to the classroom. I make it very practical, low hanging fruit. I want each of my students, when they walk out. In fact, the first night of class, I always say, I believe that in life, we're given this tool belt. And around this tool belt, we put tools. And as we go through life, each of these tools helps us become better, helps us to become more gifted, more skilled at whatever it is we want to do. And so I'm going to give you tools. And so by the end of this class, you're going to walk out of this classroom with tools that you'll know how to use. You'll know the results that you want to get, and it'll make you a more effective leader.
Yeah, so that again explains, like, you were the top of your class when you were in high school, in the college, when you're university, you graduated with honors probably, and when you start business, you said, like, you think you know everything to run a business, but it wasn't like that when in
No.
encounter with it. And then it figures like when you are giving these lessons to MBA students, that should be in that way, right? They need to know what's working, what's not working. So it's a little bit different than academic positions. So it matches your coaching skills, your mentoring skills also. So these are my questions. Do you have anything else to say to our audience lastly?
No, just thank you so much for having me on. I've really enjoyed this conversation, and I, respect you like crazy, and respect the work that you do, and keep doing it. I think that you're making a big difference in the world.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your generously sharing your insights. It has been a pleasure to have you as our guest, and I hope we can collaborate again in the future. Maybe after your second book come out, we can have another round of talk like this. It was
You're
very
wonderful.
nice to have you. And for the Coach Magazine global readers and audience, please don't forget to subscribe to our channel for the upcoming 5 o'clock Tea Talks and other podcasts. And our fourth issue is coming at the end of July. Matt is also one of our writers. You're going to find a very beautiful article from him and from other writers from around the world. Don't forget to subscribe to our website, coachmagazineglobal.com, too.